All right, guys, we are back and we're live. Going to give it a few minutes for you guys to get on here, get the notifications popping up so that we know that everybody's on. As you're logging on, say hello. Let me know where you're coming in from and listening from. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And also up in the corner, we have our QR code for our free newsletter. If you want to scan that QR code, get on our mailing list. We send out a newsletter once a month that goes over everything that we've talked about and discussed throughout the month. So if you miss anything, that's like your catch-up time. From Canada, we got Texas. Welcome. Yeah, as you guys are getting on here, chat in. Tell me where you're coming from. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Made it live from Spokane, Washington. Love it. So for those of you that are new on these live feeds, I do like them to be interactive. So please feel free to chat in, ask questions, put in your 2 cents, that kind of thing. So we have a few things that we're going to discuss tonight. We're going to talk about, we're going to wrap up Pittsburgh and New York. We're also going to talk about the latest controversy that's out there right now. There's always drama, right? We got Florida, we got California, we got Japan. Look at that. Awesome. That's been my favorite place I've ever visited, Tokyo. And we're going to briefly bring up the pro list for the shows this coming weekend. There's Optimum Classic and there is the Miami Pro too. So we're going to do that at the end and just kind of take a look at the list. And I'm not going to go through each of the competitors this time. We're just going to talk about who we should be watching for, that kind of thing. I wanted to do a wrap up of Pittsburgh previously, but I just didn't have time with travel and all that kind of stuff. I got congested and just didn't want to get on live basically. So instead I figured what we would do is we would kind of combine Pittsburgh and New York together because we had a lot of the same competitors in the lineup. So we can kind of take a look at what they did differently from show to show. And then also, like I said, we have controversy now again about prize money for the Arnold and people coming out and speaking out for it and against it and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. I do have a perspective that I have not seen anybody talk about yet. So hopefully I'll bring a little bit of something different to the table for it. We got Ohio. Thank you. Yes, my nails today. I do my own nails, you guys. I started doing my own nails when COVID hit. And I just love doing them. It's like a stress release for me. So these are my new nails. We got Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Love it. I used to live there. Lived in Smyrna. First place I ever competed was in Knoxville, Tennessee. So Knoxville, and then I did the Tennessee State show in Nashville. I think it was like a week later or 2 weeks later, something like that. A long time ago. I don't remember. So as you guys are logging on, let me know, do you want to go through the wrap-ups of the shows first? Or do we want to talk about the controversy with the Arnold prize money first? Type in, let me know what you think. I'm going to go based on what you guys say, based on what you guys want. So do we want prize money controversy or do we want wrap up of shows first? We're going to do both. But which one do you want first? Oh, nice. Yeah, the Tennessee State show was my second show. Was in Nashville. I did that. I did figure back then. So that was a crazy show. I actually still have video from that show. It was at whatever the university is there. I can't remember which one it was. One of the Tennessee universities. And it was so hot. It was in August. It was so hot and there was no AC that I was sweating so bad. There's video of the expediter actually coming on stage and blotting me down with a towel. It was freaking crazy. Between prejudging and finals, I had to go shower and redo everything. My hair, my makeup, my tan, everything. Prize money first, prize controversy, then wrap-ups. Yeah, I think usually whenever I do some sort of current events type stuff, you usually want to get into that first, usually. Yeah, everybody's saying controversy. We had one person want the wrap-up first, but it looks like controversy is going to be first, okay? So I actually wrote out hit points for this because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I've actually got a list of things that I want to go through with this whole situation. Because I'm going to be completely honest with you. I can't stand when stuff like this happens. There's no need for the drama, basically. So I'm going to go through what I think. Yeah, that's basically what I'm going to say. So we're gonna do that first. So for those of you who don't know what's going on, Arnold just raised the prize money again for the open men for his show. There's also been a little blurb that came out that said that the prize money is going to increase for the other divisions as well. But yeah, you're being outnumbered. Yep. But the prize money for the men's going to be significantly higher. So then what happened is Linda Murray came out and kind of spoke out against this. She called out Andrew Jack. Andrew Jack came out and said, what did I do? Like, why is my name being brought into this mix? All this kind of stuff, right? So the first thing that I want to say with this situation is I actually really love Linda Murray. I think she's amazing, but I think this was a little bit out of character for her. She's very supportive of all competitors, not just women. So I have a hard time understanding why she would come out and say something like this, because I never really thought she was like a men versus women kind of thing, right? Because that's what this has turned into. This has turned into an us versus them, which if you guys have followed me for any period of time, you know that I don't like that. I think that we all need to support each other. The men's side of the sport and the women's side of the sport, we all need to support each other. We're not against each other. We are fighting in this same fight to build up bodybuilding all the way around, right? So whenever it becomes something where it's an us versus them, I automatically have like a knee-jerk reaction of, ugh, I don't like this. You know, I don't like it. So for me, this was very out of character for Linda. Not sure really why she would speak out like this. I understand there's a discrepancy in the prize money between the women and the men, but there's a very significant reason for that. So the first thing I want to say is, if you all don't agree with Linda, don't hold this against her too much, because I don't know. Honestly, I don't know where this came from. I was a little surprised that it came from her. So with that said, this whole situation with the raising of the prize money for the men's open was never a men's versus women thing, because if you look at it, men's physique isn't being raised either. So if it was a men's versus women thing, then every male division would be increasing the prize money and the females would not be. So it was never supposed to be an us versus them. It was never supposed to be that. What this is an Olympia versus the Arnold thing. This started last year when Arnold came out and raised the prize money. That was not anything having to do with men versus women. It was having to do with the Arnold versus the Olympia. Arnold wants his show to be the pinnacle show. That's what he wants. So that's what he's doing. He's goading the Olympia. He's saying, I'm going to do this. You better step up, which personally, I think that's great. I think if you raise the standard, then your competitors are going to raise the standard too. So I have no problem with that. I think that they should do that more often. You know, it's just going to help everybody all the way around. So the thing that I have an issue with is, again, going back to, this is not an us versus them kind of thing. If the men's open gets more money, that does trickle down to the rest of the divisions. And it's not just women, it's men too, because if you look at Arnold, he's a promoter, right? He's not the IFBB. He's not the organization. He is promoting his own show. So he is allowed to have whichever divisions he wants and to give however much prize money that he wants. That's his priority, his prerogative. He can do whatever he likes to with that. The other thing you got to realize with promoters is they don't have any other opportunity to make money than the day of the show, right? They got to make money from sponsors, from ticket sales. That's where they got to make their money. So if they feel by putting more money into the men's open is going to bring more people into the actual show, they're going to have more ticket sales. They're going to make more revenue. So that's how they make money. Now, I'd be the first one to say, you guys know, I do this all the time. I support the women in our sport every single day of my life, right? But I'll also tell you, when I go to shows and I'm covering the shows and I'm, there as media, I am the only female covering the shows, the only one. I'm it. There's nobody else, right? So what that tells me is this sport is centered around the men. Now, that said, also, women subsidize the open men. So does men's physique. We're the support system for those divisions, right? So anytime those divisions get something, guess what? It trickles down to us. So the other part of this that I have a problem with is, why are we getting mad about somebody else getting something, right? That's like the jealous younger or jealous, middle child or whatever, when their older sibling gets something, then they automatically think it's a slight against them, whatever. It's not. Just because somebody gets something good doesn't mean that's a slight against you. It actually helps the women in the long run, because guess what? If there's more money coming into the sport, they can afford to put on more shows. They can afford to do more things with the women, the men's physique, the classic physique, every single division. They can afford more if there's more money coming in. If there's no money coming in, there's no money going out. So again, going back to, it's business, it's numbers. And these people, these promoters know if they put money in one place, it's going to sink and it's going to go, it's going to be gone. Or if they put money in another place, they're going to get more money back. It's really simple numbers. It is not a men's versus women thing. It never was. Okay. So go ahead and type in your comments here if you agree with me, or if you have something else that you want to add in here. I want this to be a conversation. Like I said, I want this to be a conversation. And the other part of this is that what I would like to see is, I would like to see more, I guess, market research done to try to benefit, bikini, wellness, men's physique, classic physique, to actually benefit the lower divisions underneath bodybuilding. And maybe it's not through prize money. Maybe it's through gaining new sponsors. Maybe it's through, supporting different businesses that support those divisions. Like, for example, myself as a suit designer, I make money off women. I don't make money off of the men. So maybe it's something where they support businesses like mine to help support the rest of those lower divisions, right? So I'd like to see some more research done with that. Now, this is the thing though, that's not something that the promoters need to be doing, right? That's something that the organization itself should be doing, which I believe they are. We see it a lot, like, Wolfpack came on and specifically sponsored a bunch of shows for wellness pro shows. That's an example, right? That's a great example right there. So those are the places where we can make up for not having the kind of prize money that the open men have. Now, I will also be 100% honest with you. I go to shows all the time, a few times a month, every single year. The open men do bring in the tickets. They just do. It's bottom line. They are the reason why people buy tickets for shows, period. Okay. So when we're talking about prize money, that makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. But there are other ways, like I said, that the rest of us, not just women, but that the rest of the divisions can benefit from that. Okay. There's been a trend. Just trying to intentionally stir the pot. Yes. Right. 100%. Maya, your comment is completely correct. This is just drama. It's, for lack of a better term, it's a pissing contest. That's all it is. It's a pissing contest, right? Hi from your diverted flight. Hello, welcome. But you're absolutely right, Maya. There's just a lot of stuff going on right now that it's just out of character for people. And I think that they're doing it specifically to just create drama. I don't get it. I don't understand it, honestly. But the BFG started because of the women's division. I'm now a big fan of the men's divisions, but wouldn't go without the women. Yeah. And that's that is the case a lot of times too. Also, Steve saying elbows and all on stage. I thought that was great. So I was there at Pittsburgh in person, and I watched the men's. Again, I was there the whole weekend. So I was there for the men's day on Saturday, and I was there for the women's day on Sunday. And there was a significant difference in the butts and the seats. Just saying. Okay. So again, I go back to, these promoters got to realize, or they do realize, these promoters realize where they make their money at the shows. Just bottom line, right? I'm going to make sure I got all my hit points that I put down here too. Yeah, I got everything. And you got to remember, in order for these promoters to put on the shows, they got to be profitable. It's almost like, it's like Arnold can't win for losing. He throws more money into the shows, and he gets dogged because he's not putting it where everybody else thinks he should be putting his money. It's his money. He can put it where he wants to put it, right? And again, I go back to, if you got more people there, if you've got more attendees in general, that is going to trickle down to all of the other divisions, not just open men. It's going to help everybody. And that's the kind of thought process we need to have versus it's them versus us or us versus them. That's just not it. That's not it. We're all on the same team. We're all on the same team. That's it, you know? Yeah, I love it all. Yeah. For Pittsburgh Pro, but man, it was fun to watch. Right? You accidentally bought it. That's funny. But yeah, like, you know, and I said this too. If you guys watched Behind the Bikini, I said this. I went to the men's finals and it was wall to wall sold out. I have been to Pittsburgh Pro since 2014. No, was it more than that? No, it was 2014. 2014 was the first year I went. I've gone every single year. And it has never been that full. It has never been that big because they've never had open men until this year. This year was the first year they had open men. And it was sold out. So guys, I'm sorry, it's just math. And like I said, you all know, I support the women in the sport every single day of my life. But we subsidize the rest of the divisions. So does the men's physique. So does wellness. So does, fitness. We subsidize the larger divisions. That's it. We are in this game together. We're not against each other. We are together in this. Right? Totally agree with you. The gender thing really gives me the ick when it comes to this topic. 100%. And then also I have a hard time with that too, because then when it is actually a situation where it's like a men versus women kind of thing, it gets less validity. You know what I mean? This is not a men versus women thing. This is a dollars and cents thing. It's an Olympia versus Arnold thing, And the lineup was crazy. It absolutely was. That makes a difference. It makes a difference, you guys. That's it. And the promoters know that. The promoters know. Again, I'll go back to Nick Walker is a huge draw for these shows. Huge. I mean, again, I was there in person in Pittsburgh, and the entire audience was on his side. The entire audience was on his side. I was there in person for New York Pro last year when he won it. The whole place was sold out. The year before in New York Pro, it wasn't. They were there to see Nick. Those names, those guys bring the butts in the seats. It is what it is. I mean, you can be upset about it, but it's just facts. And again, going back to, that is not something to be upset about. If people are coming to the show, revenue's coming into the show, that goes to everybody. And bodybuilding grows. Really pretty simple, right? It really opens... open for all our divisions, just men's physique makes it. Yes, men's physique makes it. In most shows, men's physique and bikini are the same. In most shows, yeah. There's some shows that, like I said, there's different sponsors that will pony up for certain divisions and stuff like that. So that does change sometimes. But at most shows, it's the same. Most shows, it's the same prize money. Classic physique tends to get a little bit more. Wellness is about the same as bikini. Same with figure. But again, it's dollars and cents. That's it. And when it comes to shows, this is not bodybuilding in general. Like, there's a lot of things that go into a bodybuilding show, but when we're talking about the show itself, the way that the promoters make money is off of ticket sales and sponsors. Period. That's how they make money. So the promoters are going to do whatever they can do to get more money in their pocket. And if that means getting a Nick Walker in there to fill out the place, they're going to do it. Oh, I 100% agree that it's the media. Because when that came out, the last thing that I thought of was it was a men versus women thing, because I knew that Arnold was just increasing the open men's prize purse and not every other division. And there's a lot of other divisions besides open men in the men's side of it. So it's not a men versus women thing. It's just not. And then the numbers that Linda pulled out were just wrong. Did not support her argument, actually supported the Arnold's argument. And some people were getting on Andrew Jacked for getting upset about his name being brought up in the conversation. But hell, he didn't do anything. I'd be mad too. Like, why are you pulling me into the drama? It's not my fault. I'd have probably responded the same way he did. Like he said in his post, keep my name out your mouth. I'd probably say the same thing if somebody did that to me. He's just sitting there minding his own business. I don't know. I just feel like, as another comment was on here earlier, I really do feel like they're just trying to create drama for whatever reason. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. So that's my thought process. At the end of the day, we got to stop this us versus them thing. It's not. We're all on the same team. We're all on the same team. That's it. Oh, there's only 3 women pro bodybuilders in New York. Yeah, there was. Yeah. No, I've said this several times. I believe female bodybuilding will be completely out within the next 5 years, maybe less, because competitors just aren't showing up. There isn't another generation of female bodybuilders coming up. There's just not. So, we've talked about that when we were talking about Fit Model coming in. I mean, Fit Model is going to be a new division for the female side, but I do believe that female bodybuilding is one of them that's going to phase out. There's just nobody coming up. There's nobody. And why didn't she keep the same energy and mention the Olympia? The purse is significantly more for the open divisions. You just said the quiet part out loud. You're 100% correct. I wasn't going to bring that part up, but you are absolutely 100% correct. So for those of you that missed that, read that comment right there. Actually, I think I can pin you. Hold on. How do I do that? Oh, I don't know. I don't want to block you. What am I doing? I'm trying to. Oh, there we go. I got it. So for those of you that missed that comment, bang on right there. 100%. I have to keep doing live streams and by those in watch. I made my own Mother's Day gift to myself and spent the day watching my sport. Yeah, but live streams are great. That's one thing that COVID did for us, right? Brought on live streams for every show out there, right? So, yeah. Like I said, you just said the quiet part out loud. So true. Again, I didn't want to get into that, but you're right. So I'll leave this open for like another minute if anybody wants to add in anything, and then we'll start reviewing Pittsburgh and New York. Yeah. Correct. You're absolutely correct. And this is why I go back to, it's not a men versus women thing. It's an Olympia versus Arnold thing. You're just like I said, you're just saying the quiet part out loud. That's all. What's up? Hello from Canada. So yeah, I'm going to give it another minute or so if anybody wants to add anything else into this topic, and then we will move on to wrapping up Pittsburgh and New York. All right, I'm going to start pulling this up. We're going to go through briefly the top 5 in each. Something I forgot. Before we go to this next part, this will be a little segue too. So if you remember, not last week, but the week before, I put out a giveaway for the Liquid Sunrays beauty kit backstage kit right here. So we had a bunch of people that just DM'd in. I just went through and pulled one randomly. So let me show you guys who's actually going to win this beauty. I keep saying beauty. It's not beauty. This backstage kit. And I will DM you so that I can get your address and ship it to you. There you go. So Carolina, you are the winner of our Liquid Sunrays RX kit right here. It's got everything you could possibly need for backstage, any kind of emergencies, all sorts of fun stuff in here. So congratulations. I wanted to put that out there. And let's move on to first, we're going to talk about Pittsburgh. Okay, so Pittsburgh was a really, really good show. It was an incredibly deep lineup, like crazy deep. There was the entire top 15 could have been in the top 5. You know what I mean? So going into it, I kind of thought it was going to be between Amy and Maureen. I'll be honest that Maureen was a little bit disappointing, but she hasn't been on stage for almost 2 years. So that's kind of understandable. I'm going to go through the top 5 real quick. and then we're going to move on to New York and kind of talk about most of the same people because they all competed in the 2 shows. So we're going to talk about what's different between each of them. So first we're going to go to Maria. So Maria was in 5th. I honestly could have made an argument for Maria being like a placing or maybe 2 placings higher. I thought she brought a really, really good package to the show. I'm going to pull up her front pose if I could find it. There we go, right here. I skipped past it. Now, the thing with Maria is she's just short. So I believe this is one of her best packages that she's put on stage. Very well balanced, really full. Conditioning is right on. Waistline is nice and tight. But I believe she's 4'11", so she's very, very short. So when that comes down to it, it makes it difficult to get those really like freakish, cartoonish proportions. She can come in at her best, and then if she's got somebody that's 4 or 5 inches taller than her, it's just going to be hard for her shape to show like somebody who's got that small waistline and a little bit better of V taper, that kind of thing. So I believe she put together really a very, very good package here. And I think it's just a matter of who she's standing up next to more than anything else. Maria should have most definitely placed. So, and I'm going to get into that when I talk about Maureen in just a minute. I could have seen her higher than Maureen for sure. Again, I want to wait till I get to Maureen to actually talk about that, because that was the one thing I do want to talk about today for sure, and kind of explain a few things with that as well. Let's get a back shot for Maria real quick before we move on to the next one. Let me see. This is the best one where she's posed. Okay, so here's Maria's back shot. I mean, again, pretty damn good right here, right? Really, really well proportioned from top to bottom. Some great projection on her glutes here. This is probably the best I've seen her glutes look. One of the things I've been critical about with her in the past is lack of projection, lack of upper outer glute. She had all that here. Her conditioning sometimes can be a little bit too hard. It was not in this situation. I really think this was a very, very complete package for her. And again, I could have seen her being a couple placings higher. Nothing really back here to say that she did wrong. You know what I mean? If I'm being really like critical and nitpicky, I could say like break up your curls a little bit more in the hair so it blends a little bit better. But that's the only thing I could say as far as being critical here. So I thought she did a really, really good job. This is, again, probably one of the better packages she's ever put on stage, period, right? So we're going to go on to Evie. Again, same scenario here with Evie. She could have probably placed even higher, maybe a placing higher. One thing that I've always talked about with Evie that I think still hurts her a little bit is she's a little extra with her posing. She just shows a lot of things she doesn't need to with her posing. But still, at the end of the day, this is a great package for her. She tends to be a little bit too hard sometimes. This is still a little bit too hard for the criteria. She's just a little bit too hard for the criteria. But this is still pretty good for her. Like her waistline looks a lot better here than what it typically does. She looks fuller than what she typically does. Just overall, her look to me is very, very pretty. Like her face and all that kind of stuff, very, very pretty. I'd still like to see her bring her hand just a touch lower in this particular front pose, the one that she's got on her waistline here. But honestly, this is a big improvement. She comes from that European circuit where they tend to be a little bit harder and more conditioned. So it's harder to bring that down. I think she's done a pretty good job of filling that out. That's really the only thing that's kind of holding her back right now. She needs to be just a little bit fuller, I think. But again, waistline is really, really good. And let me get a back shot. Okay, so back shot for Evie. Again, she still could have more projection on these glutes. Like for me, Maria's glutes had more pop to them. Evie's still a little bit too hard. She's got the full complete tie in through her glute and into her hamstring. So for me, Evie is still a little bit too hard. Structure though, structurally wise, she does beat Maria structurally wise. So it's a question of which one are you going to go for? Are you going to go for somebody who has the better shape, or are you going to go for somebody that's a little bit fuller and rounder? And I think it was just like, some judges just liked Evie's shape a little bit better than Maria's. So I personally think that Evie's still just a little bit too hard, and I think she still needs a little bit more projection on the glutes. So there's Evie. Then we are going to go to Maureen. So this was kind of the shock of the show. I'll be honest. When she came and walked out, I was like, oh, damn. Like, not in a good way. She was just off. And again, I go back to, I think part of this is just because she has not been on stage for 2 years. But, you're looking at her front pose here. She's way too straight on in this front pose. She needs to twist more. Because she's not twisting, we don't see that pop in her upper glute here like we should. Her pose, she's putting too much weight on the back foot versus the front foot. Again, this is just off. From the feet up, the front pose is off. Her overall beauty and glam, gorgeous. She has great stage presence. She has great confidence. And that's one of the things that I think carries her a lot of times. Like, you just look at her and cannot stop looking at her because she just has that wow factor when she steps on stage. But when we start breaking down the physique, there's some issues. She does not have the conditioning where it needs to be, specifically in her lower body. Actually, her waistline is probably the best I've seen it. She tends to have that rib cage that pokes out, doesn't have that here, which is great. That's an improvement for sure. But I think maybe because she was so focused on that, maybe she lost some of the other things. Also, I think maybe because the reason she did not compete was because of a lower body injury. Maybe that's why her conditioning and her density was lacking in her lower body. Specifically when she turns around to the back, that's where we see that loss of density. Let me get a back shot. Okay, so here's a good back shot right here. Okay, so here's her back shot. Again, great shape, but the density in the glutes and the lifts in the upper outer glute, it's just not there. It's just not there. She was significantly down from the last time she was on stage as far as that density of the glutes, and as far as the shape too. So again, to me, this looks like something where it was like a product of the injury, where she probably wasn't able to train as hard as she should have. When she did, there was a comment here earlier, when she did walk to the back of the stage, her glutes completely deflated and dropped. Again, the posing and everything like that has changed a bit in the last 2 years, and she hasn't been on stage to even test that. So I do think that she just came out doing some of the things that carried her the last time that she was on stage, and they just didn't work this time. So I believe she was supposed to do New York, but she pulled out. Which I think is a smart decision, because she still has an amazing shape, and she still could very well dominate this division. But what she needs to do is she needs to go back into the gym and just really focus on really building those glutes up between now and the Olympia. If I was her, I would stay off stage. She's already qualified. She's already qualified for the Olympia. So there's nothing that she has to do in order to get back on stage other than come back out and wow everybody. Because what I think carries her, again, is her presence, her beauty, and her overall structure and shape. So this is what I was talking about before between Evie and Maria. I think the reason why Evie outplaced Maria is because of her structure. And I believe that Maureen outplaced Evie because of her structure. Because when we're talking about density and conditioning and all that kind of stuff, she definitely could have been outside the top 5. Maureen could have. Okay. So again, if I was her, get off stage, get back to training hard, eating, putting that density back into those glutes, and then come back and wow everybody at the Olympia. That's what I would do if I was her. Okay. And again, if she was supposed to do New York and she pulled out, that was a very smart decision. Just saying, that was a smart decision. All right. And then we got Ashlyn. So Ashlyn brought a really, really good package. This was, to me, it was an improvement over her Arnold package. Let me pull up her pictures. Yeah. What everybody's saying in the comments, I agree with. It was for Marine for her package. It was just disappointing. I've never really seen her look like that before. So, like I said, hopefully she'll come back, go really put some time in the gym and come back and just wow everybody again. That's what I'm hoping for. Because again, I've said it before, Marine has always been my favorite current bikini physique. So yeah, it was a little disappointing. It was. Okay. So Ashlyn, I do believe this was a better package than what she put on stage at the Arnold. When I saw her at the Arnold, I felt like her shoulders were a little bit overpowering, that kind of thing. I don't see that here. Where I think she needs some improvement is on this front pose. I don't think it's quite right. She's twisting all the way to the side. I think she needs to open up just a touch. But again, she may be doing this specifically to make her waistline look smaller because, again, you got to remember, same thing we just talked about with Maria. Ashlyn is a very short competitor. So she has got to make her proportions look as cartoonish as she possibly can. And one way to do that is to make that waistline look as small as she possibly can. So I just think that she probably has tested a few things here. And this is probably what is the best thing for her as far as her shape and her frame is concerned. I did like her glam. I liked all of that. Again, I would just like to see a few variations on this front pose to see if this was the correct one or if it was not. Now, where we see the deficiency and where we see why Amy actually beat her is in the back pose. Okay, let me see. Let's get a back pose here. Okay. Now, the first thing is Ashlyn's glutes are phenomenal. They are fantastic. She has amazing glutes. That's the first thing I want to say. The next thing I want to say is she needs more legs. I don't think she's fully posed here. Let me see if I can get a better shot. There we go. I think she's fully posed here. Okay. So she has great glutes. This is great conditioning. It's great fullness, all of that, but she needs some more legs to balance herself out. I would say even more calves. She looks really, when you get outside the glutes and you go down to her legs and her calves, she's real thin, right? So what I would do if I was Ashlyn, I know she still has to qualify. She's competing this coming weekend. I think she'll probably win the show this coming weekend. Qualify, get off stage, build the legs. That's what I would do. Come in with the same package, but with a little bit fuller legs, a little bit fuller calves, that kind of thing, and so she can balance herself out a little bit better. That's really all that's holding her back at this point. Again, I think her glutes are fantastic. I think this conditioning was great on her. I think she just needs to build the legs up a little bit. So to answer the question that came in about Maureen being qualified for life, she's actually not qualified for life. Okay, so that's a caveat. When you win the Olympia, you are qualified for 5 years after you won that Olympia. After that, you have to write in a request to the IFBB to still be able to be qualified if you want to compete. So if you come back 5 years after you won your Olympia title, you can still be qualified, but you have to ask for the special qualification. So I believe that's what Angelica did last year. I'm pretty positive. Now that I'm thinking about it, she didn't win a show. So you have to actually ask for that qualification. So there's that caveat. It used to be that if you won the Olympia, you are qualified for life. That is not the case anymore. Okay. If it's been 5 years since you won that title, you have to ask for it if you haven't won a show. Right. But Maureen is within that 5 year timeline, so she does not have to do that. She is qualified. Okay. And then Amy won the show. So in my opinion, and in the opinion of most everybody that was there, it was like, okay, as soon as Amy walked out, she won the show. I mean, for me, this was the best Amy I've ever seen. And I've seen Amy compete in person a lot. And this was by far her best package. Just conditioning wise, shape wise, consistency wise, glam wise, everything was on point. Her confidence was so much higher than everybody else on stage. It was almost like she just knew she was walking into that show to win. And that goes a long way. Like, she was just on fire with that. So there's literally nothing that I would change here. And I know her feedback was, don't change anything and just do this at the Olympia. That's what her feedback was. So it really was one of those situations where when she walked out on stage, it was like her and everybody else, right? So we find a back pose. There's a fully posed back pose. Let's see. Do they not have one up? They got to have a fully posed back pose from prejudging, right? Did I just miss it? Oh, I did. Right here. There we go. All right. So again, going back to nice and full and round and pop. If you notice here, this is what we're talking about with conditioning on the glutes and hamstrings. She has a full tie in here, but it is not sharp, right? It's not etched in. This is perfect bikini conditioning. Also look at her calves in comparison to what we just talked about with Ashlyn. Now I know calves aren't actually judged, but the balance between the upper and lower body is, and that keeps her balanced, right? So just in general, I mean, there's nothing here to fix. There's nothing here to change. I would just bring this exact same package to the Olympia. That was her feedback, so that's what I would do, right? So going and moving on to New York. Yep, I was at Pittsburgh in person. Yeah, and I got video of everybody. I was going to put together an actual YouTube video with all the footage and all that kind of stuff. I just have not had time to, just going to be perfectly honest. I've not had time to do it. So well, we'll see what happens at the Olympia. Anything could happen, right? We've seen that. We've seen that time and time again, right? Okay, so Amy made this a twofer. This was her third New York Pro win. And if you look on here, we had Evie in second, Maria in third, exact same placements that they had in Pittsburgh. And then we had Emmy and Jibin Park, which I was not at this show in person. And I'll be honest, I have not looked through the photos yet. So we're going to do this together. So one thing I noticed when I was looking at comparison shots is that Jibin looked a hell of a lot lighter in her color than everybody else. So that was interesting. She needed a darker tan for sure. These photos are a little bit washed out as well, so that doesn't help. But beautiful girl, beautiful shape, right? So a lot of these Asian competitors have amazing X frames from the front. Amazing, right? So all I can say, again, I wasn't here in person, so I don't know exactly why she beats some of the other girls. All I can say is that she has a beautiful shape, right? Conditioning looks pretty good, but again, she's so light in comparison to everybody else with the tan. It's hard for me to judge that. Let me take a look at her back shot. And we don't have a lot of the, we didn't have a lot of the coverage of her because she was in the 5th place position and they did the top 4 with all the, the first call outs and callbacks and things like that. So she wasn't really in that top 4. But let's take a look at her back shot. Yeah, her front pose is amazing. I will absolutely hand that to her for sure. So from the back, what I would say is we're lacking some upper outer glute. She does have the full hamstring you can see here, but she's lacking some fullness and some pop this way. I almost also feel like her suit bottom is sitting up too high, which is actually flattening her glutes out. I'd like to see this just manipulated a little bit better. She might be also overposing. She might be arching too much here, and that's why we're seeing it look a little flat. If she underposed this a little bit, we probably see a little bit more projection here. But I think some of this has to do with the suit cut. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that her tan was just so light. So really complete package, though. Again, when we're looking at structure and shape, beautiful shape, right? Her shoulders into her waist, down to her glutes and legs is a perfect shape right there, right? So, yeah, I would just say she probably needs more tissue in the glutes, but she probably needed to pose this a little bit different as well. That's what I would guess. So, overall, beautiful package though. Beautiful, beautiful look. And next we have Emmy, which Emmy is qualified. She's already won 2 shows this year. She did do New York Pro last year as well, and she was in the top 4 at that time too. I believe she's trying to get some more feedback to kind of stand up against the top competitors in the Olympia. I think this was a very smart show choice for her, being next to Amy, because she has a very similar shape to Amy. For me, this was a great look for Emmy. I think her front pose is pretty bang on. She may need to pull her quads down just a little bit. She's got a lot of muscle packed on a tiny frame. So I would say maybe just kind of try to bring those quads down a touch. The conditioning looks like it's pretty spot on here. An overall beautiful glam look and everything as well. From the front, all I would say is we just have to watch the quads. And then from the back, again, pretty great projection here. This back pose actually reminds me quite a bit of Maria. Great projection. She's got really good upper outer glute. She might be a touch too conditioned here. Might be a little bit because that hamstring tie-in area. And the reason why I say that is I think in any other show, she would be fine. But she's standing next to Amy, who has a very similar shape and does not have that etched in tie-in. So it's going to go against Emmy in this particular show because she's a little too hard standing next to somebody like Amy, right? So what I think would be beneficial for Emmy is if she gained a little bit more glute density, a little bit more projection, so that she doesn't have to get quite so conditioned to get it to pop like this, right? So she could add a little bit more tissue back there. She could stay a little bit softer, and she wouldn't have those etched in tie-ins like that. So again, I think in any other show, this is going to benefit her very well. But when she's up against somebody like Amy, who does not have that etched in tie-in, it's actually going to go against her, right? And then we have Maria. So we just talked about Maria. Again, Maria's just getting better as she goes. This particular package, it's hard to compare it to Pittsburgh just because the lighting and everything is so different. But I like her glam look better here than what she did in Pittsburgh. She did open up her front pose just a touch more, it looks like here. What I would say, the one thing that pops out to me here is her traps. So I'm thinking maybe she just needs to be careful about too much compact muscle in that smaller frame, and just make sure that she's not accentuating areas where we don't want to see it. Like I see the trap. That's the first thing that popped out to me right here. So I think I liked this front pose better than the one she did in Pittsburgh, just the way she's angling it. It does make her look a little bit like we were saying, more of the cartoonish proportions, but I'd still just keep tweaking it a little bit. And then back pose. All right, so here's her back pose here. She broke up her curls, so that's a good thing. This is better than what she did in Pittsburgh with the hair. And again, going back to, I think she's done a really good job of adding some projection to those glutes. I think she needs a little bit more. Because again, the same thing I just said about Emmy, if Maria adds a little bit more tissue, she can probably soften up even more and still have that look and that projection and the conditioning in the right spot right here. So this, to me, she's going in the right direction. I think she looks better than she did at the Arnold. I think she looks better than she did at the Olympia. And I think if she just continues to add a little bit more tissue back here, like we talked about, she can get that tie-in but not etched in. This, and again, going back to, this is not going to hurt her when she's in a normal show, but it's going to hurt her when she's next to somebody like Amy, right? But again, I can't tell you if this was a better package or not from Pittsburgh because the lighting is so different. But I do like her posing tweaks a little bit. I do like her hair a little bit better here too. So that's the benefit of also going into multiple shows, because you can fix things and try new things, right? And I'm sure she got feedback from Tyler telling her if this was the right direction or if it wasn't, that kind of thing. And then we have Evie, who, again, we just talked about a second ago at Pittsburgh. And I want to show something real quick. This is what I'm talking about her doing too much, right? I think this actually hurts her, in my opinion. And I've said this before. Like these poses, right? She's kind of going between poses right here. But when she does this, she's coming straight on. Now, she has a small, tiny little waist, right? But there's no sense in coming straight on to the judges right here, right? So I think a lot of her little transitions and shimmying and stuff like that she does is very like that European flair, but I think it actually hurts her in the long run. So if I was her, I would just simplify that posing routine. Just simplify that posing routine. Don't show any weaknesses, right? Okay, here is her front pose. All right. So again, beautiful look. I can't really tell, again, because of the lighting difference between the two shows, but this looks like she's a little bit tighter than she was in Pittsburgh, which I don't think is the right direction. I think she needs to stay fuller and rounder. But this tends to happen too when you go show to show. You can end up getting a little bit too lean, that kind of thing. It's hard going from one show to another. You can definitely get too hard too quick. To me, this looks a little bit harder than what she had in Pittsburgh. And maybe that was something that they told her to do. I don't know, but I liked her Pittsburgh look a little bit better than this. And then back pose. All right. So again, going back to same thing that we said in Pittsburgh, right? She just needs to soften up. She's got too much of an etched in tie in here, and that's going to hurt her when she's up next to competitors like Amy, right? And yeah, I'm not sure if she's gotten any of that feedback from the judges about the posing. I would assume somebody's told her at this point. I know I've said it several times, but I know you don't have to listen to me. But I'm just saying, like, it just shows off things you don't need to show off. You know what I mean? So, but still, at this point, I would say she needs to add a little bit more hamstring, add a little bit more glute density so that she can soften up a little bit more from the back. And then Amy won this as well. I do know that Amy was not feeling good going into the show, but she was still able to pull out the win even with not feeling well. So that's good. She did wear her pink suit for this show. Probably just wanted to test it and see if the judges liked it a little bit better. I personally am going to go back to, I still liked her Pittsburgh show package better than this one. Front pose looks a little, this could be just her not really in the pose too. She might be transitioning into it. She's got her eyes closed. She might be transitioning into this. It looks a little off. Let me see if I can find another one that's a little bit better. Let me see. Let's see if we got a front pose here somewhere. Here's one. All right, there we go. This is better. There we go. So yeah, the other one, she wasn't quite settled into it yet. This one she is. So again, I think she's found that sweet spot for her front pose. And it could be that I just like the Pittsburgh show better because the lighting was better in the pictures. That could be it. But I just liked her Pittsburgh package a little bit better than this one. Let's see what her back shot looked like. Here we go. Okay, there's the back shot. So this is what I was talking about with her versus everyone else, right? So she's got the tie-in through the glutes and the hamstrings, but it's not etched in. She's got the density that helps her to pop that without getting too tight here, right? So that is the bikini conditioning that we're looking for from the rest of this top 5 that we were just talking about. And that's a matter of putting on more tissue so that you don't have to get quite so lean, right? She's flute. It's a difference from Pittsburgh. I don't know if she looks like she's holding water. I mean, it could be, honestly, the lighting is so different. It's very difficult to compare the two sets of photos, right? So it could be that she's holding a little bit of water, but I just personally liked her Pittsburgh show better. Again, I wasn't there in person at New York, so I'm just going on photos and things that I've seen online. This was not a bad showing for her at all, especially since she was sick. But I think she was just spot on in Pittsburgh, right? But regardless, I mean, this is a great way for her to get some feedback, see if the judges liked her better here, if they liked her better in Pittsburgh, all those kinds of things. So I don't think anybody was shocked that she won it. I don't think anybody was surprised by that. And the fact that she still won it with being sick is pretty great. So that's those 2 shows. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just going to pull up the pro lists for this weekend. Where are those at? Here they are. And we're not going to go through every competitor here. We're just going to kind of bring them up so you can take a look at them. All right, so this is Optimum Classic. We've got a bunch of people on here that could be potential winners at this particular show. I'm looking specifically at Brittany Gillespie and Eureka and Tiana. So also Sierra has won this show in the past. She hasn't been doing great in the last handful of shows she's done, but still could be up in that mix. Same thing with Marioli. Hasn't been doing great in the last few shows, but could still be up in there. Same thing with Kiki. Anybody else on this list that you guys want to take a look at and make sure that we're paying attention to? Tiana. I said it right this time, I think. She DM'd me her name and how to pronounce it. And I think phonetically it's like Diana, but Tiana. So I think I got it right. Tiana, DM me and let me know if that was right or not. Yeah, this is one of those shows where this is not like it's going to be this girl wins it. It could be any one of these girls that I just mentioned or somebody else that we have not, Yeah, I see Brittany up in the top 2. Eureka hasn't been on stage in a while, so I'm curious to see what she looks like. But yeah, that's Optimum. And then we're going to go over to Miami. So Miami is a big list. A lot of people on this list that could be potential winners here. We've got Rhoda has done very well. Romina's been okay. Leslie hasn't been on stage in a while, but she tends to be in that first call out. Christy, same thing, hasn't been on stage in a while, but can be in the top call out too. I believe this is going to be Ashlyn's show. It's going to be like Ashlyn and then like everybody else. But she's another one that could be that's my pick for the win is Ashlyn. But then we've got also Alice. Alice has been doing very well as well, so she could be fighting for that win here, honestly. And then you got Allie as well. So Allie took 6th at Pittsburgh, so she very well could come in and win it. Or well, I would say Allie top 2 to 3. If I had to guess, I would say Allie, Alice, and Ashlyn are going to be your top 3. And then outside of that, really could be anybody in that 4th place position. Yeah, I don't see Holly doing. I don't see Holly in the top 5 for a while. She just doesn't have enough glutes. She's muscular, almost too muscular, and she tends to come in too lean. So I don't see Holly. I don't see Holly in the top 5. Rhoda could be up in that top 5 for sure. Anybody else? Yeah, Romina's got some things she's got to fix, but she's been doing a good job of it. She's been getting better for sure. Her issue is always her conditioning recently, so that's gotten better the last few shows. So she could definitely be somebody that we could be paying attention to for sure. But yeah, Romina could be up in the top 5 too. What else? What else do you guys think as far as winners? Who do you got for winners? I got Ashlyn for Miami. And then for Optimum, I'm going to go ahead and say Brittany for Optimum, but that's just based on previous lineups, previous wins, and things like that. But we could see somebody else take it for sure. Brittany's not a super competitor, but she's definitely, I think, top 2, top 3 material for sure. Who do you got? Who do you guys got for these shows? Who's your pick? Ashlyn for sure in Miami. Agree. I don't really see anybody really beating Ashlyn. I could be wrong. I don't see anybody beating her. Brittany or Tiana, I could see that for sure. What else? Anybody else got some thoughts? I'm proud of us for doing so many topics in one live feed. I was like, I got to get this in. We've been off live for too long. Brianna could win. Well, feel free to put your thoughts in there. And yeah, I think everybody's kind of on the same thought process with these 2 shows. But we'll see. We'll see. Anything could happen. I mean, as we know, anything could happen. Somebody could get sick, like just what just happened to Amy. Anybody could get sick and then they're out, So we'll see what happens. That's the fun part about the shows, right? This is a very productive live. Yes, we got a lot done. We got a lot done here today. Yeah, a lot. Oh, yeah, probably European as well. I didn't look, to be honest. Let me see. I tend to not do that when we have a lot to go over. If there's nothing else going on, then sure, we can talk about European or Asian shows. But, we see it all the time. The girls that do well over there tend to not do so well when they come here, right? Korea. I don't see a European show for this weekend. Maybe next weekend. I could be wrong though. I just looked at it briefly. Right. Brittany is not, like I said, Brittany's not a super dominant competitor. So she could be a winner or she could be top 5, depending on what she looks like. So. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, like I said, if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter yet, there's the QR code for it right there. It's a free subscription. And what we do in those is we send that out once a month, and it just gives you a wrap up of everything we've done, all the live feeds, all the podcasts, lots of nutrition and training tips and things like that. So it's a really nice little newsletter that we do every month for you guys. But other than that, let's see what happens this weekend. And thanks for joining me and going through the controversy together. Can't we all just get along? We're all on the same team. That's my wrap up of that whole thing. We are all on the same team. We're in this together. That is my wrap up. All right, guys. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your week, and let's see what happens this weekend. Okay? Good night.